Ya Ali Madat. Today is day 4 of Mediation Awareness Week. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about migration and the issues and global endeavors and the issues that arise out of global migration. Migration has been part of our history. Our Jamaat has moved from place to place throughout our history, looking for a safe abode from persecution or opportunities for progress. Throughout that process, we have been guided and supported and protected by the imams of our times. Since the end of the colonial period, our Jamaat, and right up to today, is moving from place to place, sometimes involuntarily as refugees, and other times as economic migrants looking for opportunities for progress. The World Bank report states that today, or at least last year, over 250 million people were outside their home countries. And together, those millions of people outside their home countries sent home over $550 billion of remittances to their families still at home. Our Jamaat is part of that global trend. In addition, the global trade regime has made it possible and easier for businesses to be conducted across borders, providing opportunities for growth, economic progress, and success for our Jamaat as well as the world at large. There are often opportunities as well as challenges that arise from that process. It is with great foresight that Hazrat Imam anticipated this global migration of peoples, and the responsibilities were entrusted to institutions to support the Jamaat as it went from one country to another. Our council structure is designed to assist newly arrived murids from different parts of the world. It was a remarkable foresight of our Imam to anticipate that that kind of global migration will also lead to conflicts, sometimes obviously very few conflicts when compared to the opportunities that come. But there was a need to have an institutional structure to support the resolution of conflict across borders. In the constitution that Maulana Hazrat Imam promulgated in 1986, he mandated that the International Conciliation and Arbitration Board provide assistance to Jamaati members in dispute resolution across borders. And we do this today through the advancement and support of the National Conciliation and Arbitration Boards. Today, I am delighted to have a conversation with 4 NCAB chairs as we talk about some of the issues, challenges, and concerns that come across our desks as we deal with global migration issues. The first is Chairman Jamal Pradhan from India, NCAB chair for India, Yali Madat. The second chair is Shaheen Ismail, NCAB chair for France. Again, good opportunity for having a conversation. The third one is Mr. Nizar Lalani, NCAB chair for the UAE. And finally, Mavzuna Merkashoeva, the new NCAB chair for Tajikistan. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's start with you, Chairman Jamal. Tell us about the experience in India, what happens. Many people from India leave for opportunities elsewhere. Do tell us, what's the phenomenon like?
So first of all, Chairman Zuli and ICAP, I really, thank you and appreciate the effort of conducting the mediation week and informing the Jamaat of the wonderful work and the institution which has been set up by Hazrat Imam to resolve the disputes. And it's good to know how cabs are helping them across borders. As you had rightly said at the beginning of your conversation, that Indian Jamaat has traditionally post-colonization moving all over the world, started with Africa, primarily all for economic opportunities, and over the subsequently it was more to the more developed countries, to United Kingdom, to North America, and in the recent few decades, it's more to different parts of Africa and the Middle East. And also, as you rightly said, that typically the Indian Jamaat, because the pursuit is better quality of life and economic opportunity, their always preference is to go towards where we have Jamaat Khanas, we have institutional setup, which gives them some kind of support structure, and usually they very often work between each with the other Ismaili family and friends. So. And like I said, in the last few years or last few decades, the trend has been more towards Mozambique, DRC, and the Middle East, where a lot of people go as single people purely to make a living. They settle after a few years, they come back and get married, and then they go back and continue their life as a family with their families. We're also seeing a lot of migration to North America and Europe for education. A lot of students are migrating there, and and more, I would say, Canada than any other place from India. And as a result, we see that the Indian Jamaat is Indian origin Jamaat is almost all parts of the known world, and all parts where we have institutional setups available.
Thank
so that's
you.
more or less the trend, yes.
And what sorts of dispute come to us during this process?
So usually the type of disputes which we resolve are when one or more parties are within the same country. We usually handle it at the regional conciliation and arbitration boards. But where one or more parties is from another country or jurisdiction, and one or more parties is within India, that's when we work along with the other NCABs, say DRC or Congo or Mozambique or United States. And we carry out the process of mediation to try to resolve their disputes. The type of disputes mainly which come to us are matrimonial, which is a large part of our cases. Family, within the family, there are disputes, commercial and other matters. And of course, in general, commercial disputes. Also, we have seen a very clear-cut rising trend. Like I said, the murids who go to Africa and come back and get married, we are seeing a very high incidence of matrimonial disputes among them, mainly in terms of adjustments. And unfortunately, very often it's in the very early stages of marriage that we find that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what are some of the factors you think that help us to perhaps successfully resolve or assist members to successfully resolve some of these disputes?
So, what is really commendable over the several years through Imam's guidance and the efforts of the previous leadership, we have a very standardized process and training provided to all the cabs of the world. So it's very easy for me to pick up a phone and call up even the chairman of Afghanistan or Tajikistan and converse with them when they have migrants living in India. So we have, like I said, the training which we go through, the mediation training programs, to the monitoring evaluation, through the tracking systems are standardized. And as a result, when we have the quality of service for the murid is the same as if he was or she was in that particular country. Even with technology, we are able to offer that kind of similar service. And even when we have the change of leadership at the end of every term, there is no disruption in the process, and the cases continue, and And of course, we use our ex-members also wherever required. And so, like I said, it's a standardized process. A lot of emphasis is on best practice, and I cannot say how many times best practice. But as a result, we end up with where all the parties to the dispute have agreed to mediation. We end up with more than 80% of cases being resolved successfully. Of course, having said that, the 20% or 15% which don't end up successfully is also something we worry about. We do discuss about it. And one of the primary causes, I would say, is that they come to us pretty late in the matters, when things are really bad. It's like when you go to a doctor or you go for other things. It's good when you're going at the right time, so you're at least more open to settlements. Also, I would like to, specifically say, compared to a judiciary system or an arbitration system, the mediation process, because it's voluntary, because there are no winners and losers, so even if it takes a little longer in the process, when we come to an agreement, the implementation is very smooth, and more often the families and the parties end up at least rebuilding part of the strained relationship at the end of it. So I think these are primarily the reasons I would say that we've been able to resolve successfully most of the cases.
Thank you. Very interesting and very helpful. Thank you. Chairman Shaheen, we'll go with you next. France has had interesting changes in its Jamaat. Tell us a little bit about what has happened for the French Jamaat and your jurisdiction overall.
Thank you, Judy. And thank you for inviting me as well in this very interesting webinar. France is a very small Jamaat, and our jurisdiction is composed of France, Belgium, Switzerland, and Ivory Coast. And the link between all those countries is the common French language. The members of our jurisdiction used to come from the French diaspora, who moved essentially to East Africa, and especially to the island of Madagascar, which is a former French colony. So hence the French. And because it's so small, maybe that explains why we're such a small Jamaat. However, since 2015, that's 5 years ago, the structure of our Jamaat has changed dramatically with the arrival of new murids, especially coming from east, from Central Asia. That's principally mostly Tajikistan and Afghanistan, and from Syria. And now our Jamaat, still small but growing, is composed of 70% Indian background, and of 20% of murids coming from Central Asia, and 10% from Syria. And that evolution is bound to go on with a growing percentage of murids from the Middle East, I would say, Central Asia and Syria. Why? Because immigration is going on, and because generally, and especially from Afghanistan, the murids are very young. So this is how we are. Those are the changes we are facing.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges?
We're facing great challenges.
Please do tell us about the challenges and some of the programs that you have implemented to assist.
You're right, Julie. So with such a changing structure of the Jamaat, we're facing incredible challenges. We have to welcome those newly arrived sisters and brothers. We have to help them integrate our countries. We have to help them learn the language, find jobs, find homes. It's really challenging, and we've addressed those challenges thanks to the institutions, the National Council and our boards, who have worked hands in hand with Focus Humanitarian Agency, which is the crisis agency of the AKDN. So thanks to that collaboration, we've been able to integrate our brothers and sisters.
Mhm. And for the CAB system, what kinds of challenges have we had in terms of assisting murids with conflict issues?
Well, we've had. I'm not sure I mentioned that a lot of murids went to Belgium, and that in Belgium there's especially a city which is Ghent, which because it needed work has been a place that welcome a lot of murids, and so like I would say often in migrations, men or some members of the family, sometimes for the Afghans it was the youngsters who came first, and then the rest of the family followed and came and joined, and that created many matrimonial conflicts because of separation, and also because of the adaptation to a new country where the culture is totally different, where the place of women is different. So that creates problems. And so, of course, in our NCAB team, we have people speaking Arabic to be able to relate to the Syrians, and we have one member who speaks Farsi, who's able to relate to the Afghan and Tajik murids, but it was not enough. And given the number of matrimonial problems and conflicts that we met in Ghent, we decided to train some members of Ghent, some murids there, and so we trained a team of murids in Ghent, NCAP team. Training was easy, but the rest is not as easy as as we all think it should be. And there are adjustments to be done. And I would say that within the Jamaat, and there are various groups, communicating and sharing is not always easy, although we have the same basic values. But still, the culture makes a difference. And I'm quite proud to say that NCAP has played a role in conflicts within families, but has also helped the Global Jamat and some groups to better communicate. So we played our mediation role within the Jamat to be united and to address the main issues, which is to the next generation and education. And opening a Jamat Kana in Ghent also was a great pride.
That's so good. It always makes me feel a certain sense. I can imagine just how lonesome and homesick so many young people leaving home would feel, and how significant that adjustment process is for them as they move into different countries. And then, of course, for the Jamaat that is receiving them, all of the opportunities for growth that come from that interaction. But of course, it's not easy. Those transition processes are always very difficult along the way. So thank you very much.
And refugee law is not easy as well. You cannot always reunite families, so it's really hard.
Yes.
Not easy.
Yes, those immigration issues can create such hardship for families, for separations over long periods of time. Chairman Nizar, let's go to the Gulf. It's a Grand Central Station from people coming in from all over the world. Tell us about your experience in the UAE.
Thank you, Chairman Zuli, for this opportunity. And that's true, actually. UAE and the wider Gulf is like a central station. It's a melting pot of many cultures. 99% of our Jamaat is expatriate, mostly from Pakistan, India, and Syria, and some from the Central Asia, the UK, Canada, and the United States. All migrants come here voluntarily, mostly for economic reasons. As we all know, that permanent residency and citizenship programs are very stringent here. Therefore, most people come here for a short to medium term, say 2 to 5 years, with a view to return back or move to the West. However, many, like me, to stay back for a long term and make Gulf as their home. Majority of migrants are young people, around 30 years of age, who come here to look for employment or business opportunities and stay here if they find one. I wouldn't say a challenge, Zuli, but Gulf has a very peculiar way of residency. Everyone who comes here requires a sponsor for his or her residency, either an employer or a working spouse. Therefore, one has to remain employed, or in case of dependent spouse, stay married to be able to stay here.
Mm-hmm. And so that must create some issues during the time that we're mediating conflicts within families or business or employment.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. And what are some of the kinds of cases that you get to have to address, and how do you address those sorts of cases?
So, like other countries, what Chairman Jamal mentioned, like we also get both matrimonial and commercial cases. Let's talk about matrimonial cases first. Most migrants, when they come here, are young and unmarried. They think of a marriage once they are settled here. Mostly, they tend to find their partners in their home countries, which gives rise to challenges of cross-border marriages. That is lack of understanding, lack of bonding, different expectations from each other. Divorce for a dependent spouse means financial distress and returning back to home country. Similarly, in case of commercial cases, migrants, when they arrive here, have very little knowledge about local laws, about work permits, about sponsorships. Therefore, when they lose job, they also lose residency. The good thing is that we have reasonably good awareness about the mediation in our Jamaat. And luckily, we have about 74% success ratio. We have members and trained mediators from all three traditions, from Indian subcontinent, from Syria, from Central Asia, who speak languages of our Jamaat.
That's great. Thank you very much. We'll move to Tajikistan, which is a different experience. Mafzuna, it's really a pleasure to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your Jamaat.
Thank you, Chairman Zuli, for the invitation. And Tajik Jamaat is the extensive Ismaili population living in Badakhshan region, Tajikistan, which stretches over eastern Afghanistan, eastern Tajikistan and Pakistan, and northeast of Afghanistan. And Badakhshan, Tajikistan is one part of the world where Ismailis geographically make up the majority of the population. Despite its sparse population, there is a large diversity of linguistic diversity. Although the official language in our country is Tajik language, the most spread spoken is Shugni, which is understandable throughout the region. Jamaati institutions were established in Tajikistan in 2012.
Right.
And CAB as well. It started its functions in 2012. And of course, first it was difficult, and it was a challenge for Jamaat members to come with their issues, with their problems, and address it to someone. I mean, the same Jamaati person, the same murid, and the same Ismaili from the same community to address their problems too. But after conducting the presentations, which was really a detailed presentations about the aim, the goals, and the functions of NCAP, what it does, how it works, the mediation process. It was explained to the Jamaat and to the Juma namazes, which are conducted on Fridays. the NCAB members used those opportunities to explain the role and the function of NCAB, and Jamaat accepted it. And since then, if we compare today and the early NCAB establishment in Tajikistan, Jamaat now is more flexible, is more comfortable with addressing of their issues, of their problems. And as in all of the other parts where NCAB is, and we also deal with matrimonial, with business matters, with family matters.
Just so that we're back on the theme of migration, what is the where do Tajiks go, and what are some of the migration issues that you're needing to deal
with? Migration after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the 1992 civil war, the economic and the education situation in Tajikistan suffered a lot. And this caused the biggest, the highest rate of migration happened that time. And mainly that was Russian Federation, where people went to improve the economical situation of their families. I mean, the economic started improving in Tajikistan, and then the second the second place is that led to migration is the winning of the green card lottery.
All right.
And that increased the number of Tajik members in the United States of America. The marriage with our brothers and sisters around the world, from Pakistan, Canada, that as well caused that the people started moving from one country, from Tajikistan to, I mean, abroad. And Central Asian countries as Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, when AKDN started, the AKDN agency started functioning in Tajikistan since 1993, they supported the undergraduates with access to the universities, as well as to Russian universities. Or the university graduates who got acceptance to the master's program abroad and to the Institute of Ismaili Studies. Some of them came back, and some of them decided to stay and to live in those countries. But the good thing about these murids abroad is they built a community with a strong communication system that works really good.
Of course, it's always the same as saying you never leave home, right? It's wherever you go, you still come home.
Right.
It still is that part of connection. So thank you very, very much. It's really interesting to see how different places there are and how we're all in many ways the same. Each of us, murids of the Imam, trying to help ourselves and making sure we don't forget people we have left at home. And that's a very heartwarming story, Mafzuna. So thank you all very much. This has been a very interesting conversation. And we will, just to conclude, just to say, I hope that this session has given you an appreciation of the complexity of the cases that come to us, and a gratitude for the Imam to have established such an interesting and networked process to be able to help the small number of murids who need help when they unfortunately end up in conflictual situations. Of course, many are just fine and their lives improve, but it's just those few people, of course, who need our assistance. And it is an enormous sense of gratitude that we have the responsibility to assist members of the Jamaat during that sad and difficult time in their lives. It's a process we take very seriously. We continue to improve and continue to improve our techniques to be able to assist them. I hope that tomorrow you will join me as we look at preparing for and planning for the future. Thank you, Niyali Madat, and Khuda Hafiz.